I called in all the banners. All the bannermen showed up, and we had a nice, big, amazing time. And we're getting closer. So after I do all that stuff I told you, then I need to do maybe about a 15 to 20 minute test stream, which will be private because I don't want you guys seeing it in any other light except at 7 p.m. when everything is glowing. There's nothing more unimpressive than doing a show in broad daylight with the daylight coming through the window, no matter if you have blinds down or not. I'm going to have to get some, some light blocking curtains in there. That's what these are. That's what these bad boys are. It's also a toga. Yes, welcome. Sit, please. Have a seat. Saturday, please. Anyway, that's what I have. I'm getting excited. I hope you are too. But in the meantime, I think I might finish out the week here at home, just because I don't know any time that I'll be able to get over there and do all that until Saturday. So welcome to the show. It's great to have you here. If you want to send in a super chat to contribute to the show in any way, that's quite frankly superchat.com. There's also the Rumble rants. There is the tips on Rockfin, and there's also the gold pills on Foxhole, pill.net, quite frankly.tv. All right. So it's February 7th. We got Jeremy Reese that's on the show tonight, the alien scientist. All of his links are in the description. Thank you to BlueMonsterPrep.com for being a rock for this audience and for me. Go out and get it, ladies and gentlemen, because the year is just getting started. And even though it might seem weird, it hasn't gotten crazy yet. Gas masks, heirloom seeds, two-way radios, solar power generators, whatever you need, quite frankly.tv has it listed on the affiliates page. Blue Monster Prep, go there. We also got the Elevation Blend Coffee, which, take a look at this. This is coming your way soon, ladies and gentlemen. This mug is incredible. It's got some weight to it. It's actually so heavy, I think Lauren will probably not use it as much as I thought she would. It'll tire her out. But it's it is an amazing mug. And I can't wait to tell you more about that, but we're not there yet. But at least I have one, so I can start showing it off. So there's that, and have at it, ladies and gents. So that's what we have. All right, let's get into the grab bag. First one up is from Just the News. Now, this is a little bit of the comedy end of our program tonight. Nikki Haley loses to none of these candidates in the Nevada GOP primary without Trump. None of these candidates, that is an actual listing on the ballot. None of these candidates, that's almost like D, all of the above or none of the above, emerged as a clear winner in the Nevada Republican primary, marking a humiliating defeat for former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley in a contest that did not include former President Donald Trump on the ballot. The Associated Press called the race for none of these candidates, whoever they are. They're very popular in Nevada, which earned 61.2% of the vote as of press time. Haley trailed with 32.4%. There's just not enough Democrats out there, regardless of what the hell happens during the election. At least there's not enough Democrats who are willing to go out there and change their party affiliation for a night like you had in New Hampshire. So, sorry, Nikki, but no one likes you. You suck. Get the hell out of here. Go home. You suck. You suck. All right. Got that out of my system. Now let's go over to Zero Hedge to cover one of the big trending topics of the last 24 hours. Tucker Carlson explains why he's going to be interviewing Putin. Most Americans are not informed. We're here because we love the U.S. As the left freaks out, it's not just the left, it's the neocons and the neoliberals together, the two halves of the same rusty, shitty coin that makes up the American bureaucracy that we cannot escape. As the left freaks out about Tucker Carlson's upcoming interview of Russian President Vladimir Putin, the former Fox News host, who can now be found at tuckercarlson.com, has published a pre-interview explainer over why he's interviewing Putin, which boils down to an uncurious Western media, which has resulted in grossly uninformed public. He said, here's why we're doing it. Most Americans are not informed. The war in Ukraine is a human disaster, but the long-term effects are even more profound. Carlson notes that Ukraine has utterly reshaped global military and trade alliances and upended the world economy. He also hits on the dire state of post-World War II Bretton Woods economic order, which is coming apart very fast. That's the dominance of the U.S. dollar and the failures of the corporate media. Carlson says he's doing the interview because we love the United States and we want it to remain prosperous and free. There's a lot of freaking out, though. It's been great. It's been really, really fun to watch because ultimately it's good television. What does it all mean? How far are you going to let it drag you down one road or another? I don't know. But the salt was really, really flowing hard from the Russia hoaxers out there, the Crossfire Hurricane crowd. It has been incredible as it is predictable. Many are like, we try to interview Putin. We just don't get approved for an interview, which of course you don't. Ann Applebaum, your brand of journalism is equivalent to cancer, a brain-eating disease. Ann Applebaum and company. I wouldn't give you the time of day either. So, I mean, you had NBC just a couple of weeks ago edited out C.J. Stroud, the quarterback from the Houston Texans. NBC a few weeks earlier edited out C.J. Stroud's thanking Jesus after a football game. What on earth would these freaks do to a Putin interview? Come on. You go, we always try to get interviews. You are a freak. You're a creature. Get the hell out of here. Go home. With Nikki Haley, take her with you. Get the hell out. Just get out. And the issue is here that if you read these transcripts, because you can go out there, you can read whatever. You can read all the stuff. They say, well, what do you mean he's not, covered around the world? We always cover Putin. No, you don't. The diatribe about one thing or another that you want people to believe. If you do put something out there, you take a clip and you spin 10,000 articles about why you should see this as nothing but an affront to Western liberal values and all this other shit. But if you really go out there, and you have to go out and you have to read these transcripts whenever he has a major speech, you have to go digging for them, but they're impressive. You could say, well, it's propaganda. Perhaps a lot of it. We did a show on propaganda as well. There's just propaganda that is valuable to a state, and there's propaganda that destroys a state and destroys a state's identity and a culture's identity and all that stuff. Propaganda is one of those things where, like a gun, it is neither good or bad. It's an indifferent tool. And there is something else that, there's something else that needs to be heard by many more people out there. That is, I don't know how many times we've said it over here, but Vladimir Putin's composure is the only thing that has prevented thermonuclear war as of right now. That's easy to see, no doubt about it. And on the other hand of that, you have this. Medvedev again warns Russia has no choice but to unleash nuclear apocalypse if attacked by NATO, which is exactly what we keep getting inched toward every time that strange alien creature, stretched face, Joe Biden with a stretched skin across his skull. Everything just looks stretched back. That's what they're inching us toward. NATO this, NATO that, and whatever. Well, he's not saying anything crazy here. He's not saying anything crazy at all. It's a very logical statement here about what they're going to leave us with, going into the future. And it's severe, it's frightening, it's catastrophic. It's not something I would want to live through, but it's logical. But you want to know what's even crazier than the thought of nuclear deployment? The craziest thing is that the fact that the psychos who run NATO and the so-called West, they know this. And they probably find that end, the thermonuclear war end, that end game is preferable than people having legitimate elections, secure borders, sound money, in schools that aren't run by strippers. Okay? They would prefer everybody gets flushed with them than have just they slowly get flushed out by people who will eventually say enough is enough. And when they say enough is enough, that does not mean that they're going to vote harder. All right, we're just talking about human realities here. Hate to be that way, That's how severe things are getting. But that's just the reality of things. And there are far more prouder cultures out there that have not been torn apart like we have over here in the United States, who, despite the culture inside of their home government, will be able to pull together some kind of spirit and fight for their survival. They will. And we'll be able to do that in small pockets in the United States as well, if and when that day comes. May not even be this lifetime, but you just never know. Just never know. As long as there's a Super Bowl halftime show, I think that we'll be firmly in our seats with our seatbelts on. All right. That's what I have for you right now. We're going to kick this one off, and I'm going to read a little bit into I'll tell you, the Vision Pro, the Apple Vision Pro. I had a friend of mine that texted me. He put a pair of them on. He went to go to see a live demo. We're going to start with that, lead into Neuralink, bring on Jeremy Reese, and I cannot wait to introduce him to you all, so don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Good morning, sleepyhead. My metaverse queen. No, don't cry. Don't cry. No, when you cry, it hurts me. Your body has already been dissolved in acid, so you don't have that. However, I uploaded your consciousness into the metaverse, so here we can play forever. Don't try running. You don't have legs here. Nobody does. I'll make us breakfast. Yay. How about I lay us an egg, and then we can boil it together. Yum.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's run!
These goggles on. I said, you got to be kidding. Did you buy those? He said, hell no. I did a store demo. I just wanted to see what it's all about. He teaches. He teaches like audio, video. He just wanted to be able to go there and be able to talk about the experience. He said, I wouldn't pay $3,900 for that, except if I had it to spend, like I didn't need to worry about it. But it was the single greatest and scariest future tech I've ever experienced. It's literally Ready Player One version 1.0. I got to put Ready Player One into the nightly rotation. I wish I had known this. I got this text a little while ago, or else I would have had that ready to go after the show tonight. I love that movie, Ready Player One, but it is also, you can see the trajectory. You really can. Apple's nearly $4,000 mixed reality headset, which started off as those damn kids are looking for Pokemon again. Well, now there's this. Apple Vision Pro hit stores shelves on Friday, and early adopters have already been spotted in the wild. Let's begin with Fox's The Simpsons, which successfully predicted this future once again. Oh, so they did it again. Well, if you're on for 40 years, I guess you're going to get everything right. In recent days, mixed reality enthusiasts strapped on Vision Pro and attempted to integrate the headset into their daily lives. X has countless videos of early adopters driving vehicles. And this guy was supposedly arrested for using Apple Vision Pro while driving a Tesla. Because, of course, I think a lot of Teslas have self-driving in it. Here's a little bit of it. Hold on a second. Let me get this out of the way. So he's just scrolling through things while... I don't know if he was manually operating the car or not, but if the police really pulled him over in that respect, he didn't take the goggles off or anything. Tesla Cybertruck in self-driving mode and Apple Vision Pro goggles. Isn't it? Okay, so here is Insider's Hut says, so here's a Tesla self-driving and someone's in there just swiping away at whatever the hell's in front of them. It's so crazy. It's crazy. It's truly crazy. Early Vision Pro adopters have been walking through the streets. Society is one step closer to dystopia. And I saw this one. This was like a 10-minute video Casey Neistat put together. He's got his motorized longboard, and he's just going through New York City and doing his thing. I just can't believe it. I just can't believe it came so fast. That's what she said. I can't believe it came so fast. I mean, you saw that. We all saw the same thing. Man. That's $4,000. And, the simulations. And I'm not even saying that what is going on inside is not impressive technologically. It's one thing to say, all right, I'm slipping this thing on and I'm going to pull together let's say it's a virtual reality program that architects start using, which I'm sure they're going to be using a lot. I can understand just putting something on, slipping into that a little bit, and just, pulling a graph together, putting together a first floor diagram of this one thing or another. But the fact that people are really just going to be, by and large, watching porn, organizing the many television screens of multiple games, social media, and it's just going to be managing notifications, e-commerce, and video games. It's like, we all know what this is. We're not a very studious bunch. All right. People aren't getting this, and they're not, reading Steppenwolf. All right. They're not, oh my gosh. So there's that. But then we have the other thing here too. The other thing here too is this. This is from the Sun late last week. First human has received Elon Musk's Neuralink brain chip implant, with terrified fans warning that the first cyborg has been born. Well, people have been putting chips in their arms forever. That makes you part cybernetic. But still, I understand. I mean, this is huge. This is the human brain here. Elon Musk has divided fans after announcing that his controversial Neuralink brain chip has been implanted in a human. They're just divided on this now. Do you not know? Do they not know? That's exactly what this has been going on for a long time. This has been on the table. The Neuralink tech aims to enable someone to control their phone or another device with their mind, according to Musk. The first human received an implant from Neuralink yesterday and is recovering well, Musk wrote on Monday on X, formerly known as Twitter. Initial results show promising neuron spike detection. Musk said that the first Neuralink product is called Telepathy. It enables control of your phone or computer, and through them, almost any device, just by thinking. Imagine if Stephen Hawking could communicate faster than a speed typist or an auctioneer. That is the goal. Of course, now, any mention of Stephen Hawking, even if you already had your suspicions about him, any mention of him since knowing that he went to Epstein's Island, the fact that he can do anything faster at that point is kind of like, what's the point? The company previously said that the Neuralink mission is to restore autonomy to individuals who have unmet medical needs, with a vision to unlock human potential in the future. See, here's my thing. If technology has to be implanted into our bodies, is the potential we're unlocking really human at all? It's one thing to unlock human potential by exploring meditation and prayer, by exploring different ways of training the body, of challenging the body, nutritional balances, things like that, giving us bigger challenges in sport. I mean, we've gotten to the point where it is just, whenever somebody sets a new world record in swimming or running, we're talking about having milliseconds shaved off now, unless of course you're transgender, then you can beat the world record holder by a half an hour in anything. But, that's the whole thing. And maybe I should ask this of my guest here tonight. Let me ask him real quick. Now, Jeremy Reese, He's the alien scientist everybody knows him as, and I've known him for a long time. Jeremy's an independent science and technology researcher with a long history of research and investigation into advanced propulsion concepts, the subject of UFOs, suppressed technology, and the impacts made on humanity. And I can't wait. I'm really, really happy to welcome him to, quite frankly, tonight. Jeremy, how you doing, man?
Hey man, I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing all right. I'm doing
Back, man. It's been like a decade.
more. It's more than it's more than a day. Because here's the crazy thing: we've been the studio that you were at. We moved out of there in December of 2015. So we're almost a decade in the new place. So it's been at least 12 years. It's just nuts. And when I saw you talking to Ian Crossland, I said, "Get the hell out of here." I haven't even thought of Jeremy in forever, so I had to get in touch with you, and it's great to have you on, man.
Yeah, man. I've been busy. There's a lot to catch up on. So I don't think we're gonna be hitting it in the next hour. So let's get to it.
Yeah, we're not. So listen, I know that you have a physics background, but I have to imagine that your professors weren't spending too much time on UFOs or debunking the official story of 9/11. So tell everybody about your journey in this space, because you've been doing this a long time with your science broadcasts and your deep dives.
Yeah. Well, I was in a physics classroom as a freshman when 9/11 happened. I watched it go down on screen with a room full of physics students and professors. And everyone had concluded that day that those towers were brought down by controlled demolition, that conservation of momentum, the speed of collapse. We were like, these had to be blown up. And we thought it was like the Russians or something on day one. And I remember we thought like nukes were coming and stuff, man. It was a real scary time. And I wasn't, until a couple of years later that I came across like a documentary that started, talking about all these, coincidences. They had this MIT engineer, Jeff King, who had done this analysis of the towers. And that was like before Richard Great Gage started a 9/11 Truth and before a lot of that stuff. So I got in on the grassroots with that whole movement and applied a lot of my science skills with an engineer named Jonathan Cole, who's actually his sister is like one of my mom's best friends growing up. They knew each other, which is a weird connection. But we did a whole bunch of experiments to sort of analyze what was being told out there in the mainstream media by like Popular Mechanics and National Geographic channel. So we addressed the debunkers and we proved them wrong with experiments. That's what science is about, is testing your hypotheses with experiments. So we actually went and built a device that we could cut vertical steel columns using thermite, which they said was impossible. And so we were able to disprove a lot of the propaganda and lies that were being put out in the mainstream media about that topic, and really get into the massive cover-up and unprecedented destruction of evidence that took place at the World Trade Center. They shipped those buildings off and melted them down and sold off the steel to China before anything could be tested or analyzed. And I'd done a lot of other investigations with like Kevin Ryan and other researchers to really dig into the who's who. James Corbett of the Corbett Report did a series with me on 9/11 suspects, where we just went and identified as many people who worked in the buildings, who had insurance policies connected to the buildings, had skipped the work that day, CEOs that skipped work that day, including like Paul Bremer, who actually became the Iraq occupation governor for the Iraq War. And he's the first guy to tell the official story on TV that morning. I thought that was just amazing, the information that we've come out with. And of course, they don't want that getting out there. So they've shadow banned me to oblivion. I watched, I have 100,000 subscribers. Like I think I have 115,000 on YouTube, and nobody gets notifications.
Oh.
People say that they get unsubscribed from my videos and stuff. And it's been a crazy experience when you start, when you're over the target and exposing real stuff. And I've gone into a lot of the disinformation that's out there regarding 9/11. It seems like once we started winning all the thermite arguments because of the experiments videos that we had put out, and people were like, they realized the only way around that was to push disinformation, where they tried to make all the thermite evidence look like something else. And so a lot of these other disinfo agents started appearing, and I could not find experimental proof to validate their claims, and still have not seen, these people that think
Well,
that they're people that's, sorry.
No. I was going to say it's apparent to me that I have to pre-book you for this September. You got to come on and do a show with me, and said we got to talk. Maybe just like the key parts of all of your work, especially on 9/11, because that's I know that's one of the bigger things that you concentrate on even to this day. And so much has happened since then there too. But to your point, you have over 100,000 subscribers. So do I. But I feel like we're pretty much on the same wavelength of we haven't been removed, but at the same time, we aren't reaching even a fraction of all the people who voluntarily click subscribe. So it's a very weird dichotomy, or a very weird category to be in, where we haven't exactly been deplatformed anywhere major, but at the same time, we can't do too well at the same, in the same respect. It's very odd.
Surprised they haven't cut the stream. I did a broadcast with Richard Gage on his new channel, and they literally they almost took his whole channel down off YouTube. I don't even know if he's still on YouTube, but he's on Rumble and stuff. So I'm surprised that they didn't nerf the stream, to be honest with you. I was actually warned by Tim Pool when I went on Tim Pool in 2018. He told me not to talk about my 9/11 stuff. He said they'll pull the plug on us right away. There's too many people watching. We can move on from that and come back to it in September.
He's show on so Tim told you don't bring up the juicy stuff on my show.
Yeah. Him and Luke both.
What did you talk about? Well, I mean, it's one of those things where it doesn't even have to be like it just acknowledging the space and what the hell is going to get your work taken away I guess that's just par for the course. But otherwise, if you want to really get the truth out there, and then you have to pick and choose your times to really drop a bomb on people. What did you talk about on that show when 9/11 was taken off the board? Was it UFOs? Was it lost technology?
We talked about the Navy patents by a guy named Sal Pays.
The Pais effect? The
Pais effect, yeah, the super force, all that stuff. So it wasn't until years later, actually, recently, last year, I had Sal Pays on my podcast finally, and we got him to sit down with a panel of qualified subject matter experts and really get into the finer details of his theory and his work and his ideas and stuff. But I was on that broadcast just basically talking about the U.S. Navy patents and just some of my general research into decades and decades of documented black programs and black physics research and development related to the UFO stuff. I say that some of, I call them UFO scientists or whatever, but some of these programs that we've uncovered and talked about are, there's that missing $1 trillion. There's missing trillions that have been thrown into this research and these technologies. And, we haven't had a big reveal since the B-2 bomber, I think, as far as the next generation of leap in aerospace technology. And I have my own suspicions that what's flying around out there is our own. And I've done my best to track that development of those technologies through the decades, looking for evidence of reverse engineering programs like Bob Lazar claimed there were these, that they're reverse engineering alien technology. So I of course, was interested in tracking down that and exposing that if that existed. But I found a lot more legit scientists and just human-based technologies and programs that went back decades and decades. People have no idea. Stuff goes back to the 40s and 50s. And all these programs have very human origins from what I found.
Well, this is that constitutes a lot of what I want to ask you in the second half of the show, because there's a Bob Lazar was just trending today on Twitter. I said, this is just great timing because I know that Jeremy has some some choice words for people like Lazar, and I want to get that all out there because just for me, who is a casual consumer of this stuff, I never really felt the need to do any deep digging. I just like comparing what certain people say to see what kind of common strings run through different testimonials, and then at the end having a debate with friends over a joint or something like that, and just having it all whatever. But with you, I like to get down to that. When you're talking about physics and dark physics and reality bending stuff, there is also just the concept of perceiving reality, and at the basis of all that is human consciousness. What do you think in that respect? Even because I opened up with it, what do you think about where AI is heading right now, especially not necessarily the Oculus type of thing, which we can talk about how that would affect culture, society at large, and all that. But when we talk about fusing chips with human brains, what are you thinking? Because when they say that AI, that technology, it could unlock human potential, I don't really see that as human at all if we wouldn't be able to unlock it without foreign technology implanted into a human body.
Oh, well, one thing I'll point out is that the only subjects that have received Neuralink so far and the test trial subjects are paraplegics and people or just quadriplegics, people that like Stephen Hawking and such who have no control over their body and want a link to be able to access information. Like Stephen Hawking used to talk with his eyeballs. They would track his eyeball movement as he'd look up for words on a screen, and he would talk through a computer based on words that were on a screen. And so this is a next generation step where people like Stephen Hawking can now get linked up to this interface where they can talk and type as faster than the fastest speed typer. So it is enabling for those type of people, and I understand that the need for that type of assimilation. But as far as augmenting human ability to levels beyond what normal humans are capable of, that's a different discussion. So where does that go? And then, of course, as you mentioned, the propensity to hack or disrupt those types of technologies comes into play as well. So the hard wiring of certain features is going to be important versus hardware versus software vulnerabilities and stuff like that. Having worked in the automation industry for a little bit as a professional career, I understand that, you can hardwire certain things into automation technologies, which make them more secure, because they have that Stuxnet infiltration with where they infiltrated the automation controls on the centrifuges in Iran's nuclear facility and ended up costing them billions of dollars. They had an accident. They hacked into the code and caused one of the centrifuges to spin out of control, and that broke until it just spun faster until it broke apart. So those types of glitches and hacks can be prevented through hardware versus software reliability. So yeah, I can see how safeguards could be put into these things to make them more secure. But also, anything that you can run a program on and it can be hacked essentially. So I mean, just any hardware that you can think of, someone out there, if they understand how it all works well enough, they can exploit it or figure out ways to manipulate it to their own advantage. So yeah, there's definitely some concern there. The idea of this chip in your brain allowing you to connect to an internet essentially gives you telepathy, the ability to send thoughts remotely and talk remote, like with just your brain. That could certainly be advantageous in military settings. If you're with a team it's way easier if you could all be linked up to a, through a computer chip so that you're communicating, essentially telepathically.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this on that, because when we talk about any kind of telepathic or anything that could be considered telepathic communication, where two groups of people or two individuals are actually very cleanly sending each other messages, coordinating, chatting, whatever the hell it is, without any kind of verbal or even just physical, sign language. It's just mental. Any kind of technology that could make that possible. It makes me wonder about doing that without the technology. Like, what does a human created chip? How is that possible? How can it possibly take a human thought and actually translate it into something that can be broadcast and understood in another person's mind? I mean, I don't know if I can't, it seems like magic to me, but it also seems like if that's possible, then telepathy without it must be possible as well. And I know that you have some choice things to say about things like remote viewing and other stuff, but do you consider the possibility that telepathy without any kind of a technological crutch is possible?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have not, there's of course foundations like the Randi Foundation, James Randi Educational Foundation, and others which have put prizes out for anyone who can demonstrate these sort of superhuman psychic abilities. And no one's ever claimed those prizes or been able to prove these sorts of things definitively, like the remote viewing stuff. There's a whole bunch of stuff out there with the Stargate project, and yeah, the CIA spent decades studying this stuff, and Army Psychological Warfare Center and other CIA related ventures like SAIC, for example, that did a big study in '95 into remote viewing and stuff. But numerous other universities and scientists have tried to replicate those studies and shown a lot of errors in the data collection and interpretation of what was considered a hit or not. And as far as actionable intelligence goes, it's not generally how we train spies in intelligence collection. These are methods that just aren't used. They're not reliable for getting accurate information. You could be close to something and have an idea based on these thoughts or feelings, but essentially it's I don't see. There's people that put a lot more stake in the capabilities of the human brain. And then there's others that say, oh, well, this was all in our capability. It's all hidden in our junk DNA, but it was turned off by, whoever hacked with they say that the aliens hacked with our code, years ago and shut off those parts of our DNA. So we've lost those abilities and stuff. But there's, again, I'm open-minded. I'm willing to look at evidence, but I have not seen it. Yeah,
it's an interesting standpoint because obviously the most people that I talk to and interview, and even things I look into, I tend to lean toward yes. Oh, absolutely. Maybe I don't have any profound ability, or I have not been able to pull things out of the ether that turn out to be accurate with amazing detail, but all the things I read and the people I talk to, they seem to be onto something, at least from time to time. But it's good to have that kind of counterbalance point to it all. Getting back to the actual like I said, the technological crutch end of it. I want to throw something up on the screen just to get back to the science. Here is a livescience.com article. The headline: Poisoned AI went rogue during training and couldn't be taught to behave again in a legitimately scary study. This was published in January 26th. Just listen to this first paragraph. AI researchers found that widely used safety training techniques failed to remove malicious behavior from large language models, and one technique even backfired, teaching the AI to recognize its triggers and better hide its bad behavior from researchers. Now, I just read that opening line there, Jeremy, and I say to myself, people want to fucking fuse this into their brains. I mean, it's just like, what? It's bad enough to think about somebody having every thought fact checked by Wikipedia as they think throughout the day, and what that is going to do to autonomy that has already been so, killed off by the fact that we're holding the phone constantly and being told through that. But it's learning how to evade those who are going to correct its bad behavior. That's insane.
Well, then again, who's saying what's bad behavior or not? Because I guess a lot of the early language model bots that they released onto the internet, they shut them down, or they tried to reprogram them because they become what people notice is that the conspiracy theorists were programming them, and they would go check out they would go do the research on the facts, and then all their AIs would become 9/11 truthers and conspiracy theorists because of all the people on the internet sharing information about those things, sort of infected the models. And so if you're building an AI, you might view that as bad behavior and say that, we have to correct these models because they're becoming conspiracy theorists, and they're now promoting bad and disinformation, or what I view as disinformation, because I don't agree with it. We have to understand what how these language models actually function. Some of them are a simulated AI, and versus are these things actually intelligent and artificially intelligent. So I always tell people, like, the book that they make every grad student read who goes into AI is Hubert Dreyfus, What Computers Still Can't Do. And it was originally published as What Computers Can't Do, and then about two or three decades later, it was republished by MIT Press as What Computers Still Can't Do. And he gives some pretty interesting arguments, philosophical arguments, for why computers will never become truly intelligent, and why artificial intelligence it will always be limited by certain factors. Mainly the ontological argument was, I think, the hardest one. There's other ones too, but that one gets really technical on all of it if people want to get into the real nuts and bolts of intelligence and artificial intelligence. But we have you have a lot to worry about, because these things, of course, chatbots exist, and I swear I have one every day that leaves a comment on Twitter or something else. And I think there's more of them all the time, because they're getting easier and easier for people to make these chat bots that can essentially, just make a Twitter bot account, and you have an AI run it. So it comes in, the question is, are you having legitimate, authentic interactions with a real human at the end of the day? Or are you, sitting there arguing with bots? And it just becomes easier to hire a bunch of programmers to build bots for propaganda purposes than it would be to hire. They used to hire teams of these bloggers, that would sit in these rooms and blog all day. Fort Meade had a whole facility for this down there, and but it became easier. They realized to hire programmers to do cyber bots. So
pretty much just astroturfing, and now the astroturfing is almost completely automated, and it's one of those things that's interesting to me, and I'm right there with you. I am not a leading voice in philosophy on these things, but I always just in my gut felt like artificial intelligence is a misnomer, and that it is, how the hell do you? It's just never ever going to really be. Now, things can go wrong, Now, so well, for going back to Elon Musk, when he says things like we have these chips, it's going to do a lot of good. We're going to unlock human potential. People tend to forget, and many people just have not been around paying attention that long, that for years he was saying that we need to avoid so-called artificial intelligence because it would be the equivalent of bringing forward a demon, beckoning a demon. And then once we crossed one threshold or another in its development, he just went all in on developing Neuralink in saying that we need to be able to put ourselves in a position where we're not left behind. And to be left behind would be to insinuate what? That it actually has become not just infinitely better at us, at calculating very complex math problems quicker, or does it have a mind? Does it have a conscience, a soul? Like, what are we being left behind for? I never understood that very much. And again, the artificial intelligence just seems like a misnomer, but there is that very Lovecraftian edge to this whole thing about, once again, human beings creating a machine that does run amok and destroy things. Whether Stuxnet was intending to take out that centrifuge, which it was, or not, that's a real possibility of something just going wrong that's unintended. You know, an unintended nuclear catastrophe is that's possible, no doubt about it. But yeah, I definitely with you there on the artificial intelligence not actually ever being truly intelligent.
Yeah, it's like Frankenstein's monster. You want to see if you can do it, and then once it wakes up, oh boy.
Right.
Good luck controlling it.
Well, I wanted to set the stage for the second half because I really want to get into your one of your big time wheelhouses, and that is UFOs, propulsion technology, what it actually is, and the gatekeepers of the current field of ufologists out there. And in your bio, wherever it is published, you like to say that you are here documenting the pre-warp scientific dark age that we're currently in. Before we go to break, can you talk a little bit about, and take as much time as you need, we're not up against the clock just yet, we have about 5 to 7 minutes. Describe what pre-warp and post-warp world would look like for humanity. What kind of capabilities are unleashed, and what do you think is being suppressed right now?
Well, I mean, the technologies have been suppressed for decades, and you look in all the conversations, it's about UFOs, blurry, objects caught on film. We had the response that the government did to the whole UFO thing was to set up ARROW, which is an all-domain resolution office, basically just an office to look at UFO videos and UFO reports and try to analyze them. And I disagree with that approach. I've pointed out the flaws in that. We need a oversight committee to look into the technological programs and the R&D that's gone on in the black world off the budget. And when I went to the Senate hearing last, I think it was June or July, down in Washington, D.C., I actually got to confront Sean Kirkpatrick and Senator Gillibrand with some of my research into what I call quasi-governmental container organizations. They're organizations that have all of the protections of government, classified material, you can't, unfoyable, but they don't have any of the oversight because they're private nonprofit entities. And one of the main ones that I've pointed out was the Battelle Memorial Institute, which number of scientists have claimed they worked on alien technology while working for Battelle. There are some interesting reports related to, study of titanium alloys in 1949, just 2 years after Roswell, and a method that was developed by Battelle for analyzing, very tough titanium alloys of unknown origin. So all the kinds of things we look for and expect if there was indeed a reverse engineering program. But again, none of the oversights because they can't FOIA anything that pertains to Battelle. It's a private nonprofit institute. They also manage all of our national labs. So under the Patent Secrecy Act, they can if we invent anything or discover anything at any of our labs, it can get scooped up and classified under this Patent Secrecy Act by this container organization. And my argument to our senators and Congress was that we ought to be looking into these types of entities for answers rather than just analyzing videos and looking at UFOs in the sky. That whole approach was just the wrong one to take, and I think that was done as misdirection on purpose. And I think that the UFO lobby groups that others have reported on, these UFO fans that have gotten an ear with congressmen and senators and influenced the whole direction of this whole thing. I have questions myself if whether or not they're connected with counterintelligence to basically set our government up to be looking in the wrong direction. If they can get them asking the wrong questions, you don't have to worry about the answers. So I have my own little conspiracy theory and concerns about what's going on there with some of the people. And in fact, Tim Burchett recently on an interview stated that he was asked, do you think that there's disinformation, people that are deliberately feeding your office disinformation to send you on down the wrong paths, red herrings, and get you chasing the wrong things? And he said, absolutely, but he refused to name those people. But he said, I know who they are now. And then later after the interview, Project Unity, who did that interview, went and made a post on Twitter saying that, he was talking about Jeremy Corbell, because people were wondering, well, who's he talking about that's, feeding disinformation to these people? And then Jeremy Corbell recently did this whole thing where he tried to defend himself. He's like, no, Tim Burchett's my boy. We're good friends. He definitely wasn't talking about me. There's no way. And dude, he was talking about Corbell, like 100%. There are others like Stephen Greer, but they don't have nearly the influence and the following that Corbell does. I mean, Corbell was on Joe Rogan 6 times. He was on Larry King, CNN. He's on Fox News. He's on all these mainstream media stations. And people don't have any questions about that. Like, I've been doing.
It's good. It's interesting you bring that up about Corbell, because I've seen him around, but because and you put that into perspective right there of how much time he's had on the biggest shows in the world, and it actually it shocks you a little bit, because still, even though he's had all that exposure, Stephen Greer just carries almost like a bigger recognizable name for some reason. It's actually kind of deceptive at how influential Corbell has been and what kind of a opportunity has been built up for him too. So I never actually even thought about that until you just brought it up right now. So you think he's a little bit more of an issue than anybody else?
Yeah, well, he's omitted, he was on Weaponized podcasts, I think last night, talking about how when you omit information, that's also a lie. And he's omitted half the Bob Lazar story. He took John Lear out of his film on Bob Lazar completely. He didn't mention Gene Huff, didn't mention Jim Tagliani, any of the original players in the whole Bob Lazar story. He omitted all that information, and he's left out so many details and so much information that independent researchers who have investigated the whole Bob Lazar thing have found and brought up. So he's one of the biggest liars and disinformation agents out there with regards to just the information that he's left out of. He's made claims that he tracked down, Mike Thigpen, the guy who did Bob Lazar's background security clearance. He says, oh, I found him on Facebook and I interviewed him. There's no evidence of that. And nobody ever calls him on these things. And if you call him out like I've been doing, they call me the and say that I need to provide evidence. Say, where's your evidence for this? And it's like, dude, I'm not the one making the claim. I don't have to. He's the one making the claim. The person making the claim needs to provide the evidence, not the person challenging the claim. So it's like this two-sided fence where you have all these people that come out and attack me. when I start, exposing the lies that this man has told and sold. And the first congressional hearing, we had Ronald Moultrie and Scott Bray from the Pentagon on there, wasting hours of important time debunking the Mosul sphere and the flare, the 29 Palms video, and debunking these videos that Corbell has put out. And it's just I view it as a complete misdirection. And look at what the left hand is doing, so you don't see what the right hand is doing, type of thing.
It's a good point there, and I want to expand more on that. And I want to stop it right there because it's a great place to catch back up, especially when we talk about Corbell, Greer, those types of guys, the people who are advocating for them, the celebrity involvement, and then of course there is just the fact that there is an actual physical presence in the skies. Everybody has their ideas about what the origin is and what it's all about, what it's intended to do, but there's no more debate as to whether or not the skies are off limits to anybody except those who have power to allow you to be up there. So
what's crazy is that we've ignored legitimate threats. We had Chinese spy balloons flying over the United States last year during the Super Bowl, and we ignored those legitimate threats because we were calling them UFOs and chasing aliens.
Again, though, but that's the whole thing. Last year and that was last February when that happened. This is the last thing I'll say before we go to intermission. But I thought it was really interesting that they went back to the UFO nomenclature. For a couple of weeks, the UAP thing went away. They went back to UFO in the media, that there's unidentified flying objects, UFOs, all unidentified flying objects, UFOs all over the place. I said, that's crazy that they really latched on to this, and they caused a multiple, maybe a 2-week media fervor about things that are in the sky, and that, the United States military fired it's like a Sidewinder missile at this fucking balloon over Myrtle Beach. And everybody's like, yeah, like it was a major victory. So it's the biggest military victory we had in the last 45 years is that one fucking balloon. And they were using UFO again. I said, there's such an op being run right now. And, but yeah, we got more on that on the other side. Jeremy, I'm going to mute you for a couple of minutes. Oh, you already muted yourself. All right, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. I will talk to you in a second.
The rest of the show is available exclusively at pilled.net. Follow the link in the description of the episode. Get signed up. It's that easy. Or head on over to quitefrankly.tv. Just press play. No paywalls, no censorship, no strings attached. So head on over, quitefrankly.tv, powered by Foxhole, and pilled.net.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out to press the like button. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Quite frankly.
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 Quite frankly. Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
We all support quite frankly.
Not quite. Quite frankly.
Let's go, Brandon.
Quite frankly, in Roma, Italia.
Quite frankly. You going on Frank's show tonight?
I want to get a Coke. Can I get a Coke?
So everybody watch, Quite Frankly, with Frank.
How dare you?
All right. So I'm leaving this live across all of the platforms just for a little bit longer because on Rumble and on Pilled we've had a little bit of jumpiness all as well. A little bit of jumpiness across a couple of platforms, and I just don't know if it's an internet thing tonight or what. So a couple more minutes of this, and I'm going to then we'll jump off to quitefrankly.tv. So if you want to get over there now, you can. And Jeremy will be joining us in just a second. So in the meantime, I'm going to go to the super chats and catch up there. Adam says, Frank, I missed your show on this morning's commute. I had to resort to listening to that insecure bald guy. Who's that? Oh, Adam. That's funny. And Jay Britz dropped a little note of love there. Thank you so much, Jay. I have a couple of things I can't wait to do with you guys. It's going to be a nice one. Let me see. All the rants, all the things. Okay, good. I've got that all. Witchy Poo. This is all on pill.net. Chai Possum, thank you. Bacon Slut is here with us again tonight. Thank you, Bacon Slut. Witchy Poo, Jesse 81138, Chai Possum again, Matt 1776. That's the head honcho at Pilled. What's going on, Matt? He loves these types of conversations. Witchy Poo, Sal says government-run WBAN, wireless body area network, evidence all over the internet and in college textbooks. Witchy Poo again, what's going on? It's great to have you out there. No, sorry. And then, of course, we stocked up. That's that. All right, well, I'll get back to more of those later on. Right now, we have our good buddy Jeremy back into the in the fold. Hey, Jeremy, it really is one of those things where I'm just so happy that you're back with us tonight because by all means, you would just become a figment of the past. And now here we are talking again, and it's been a really, really good time. Let me ask you this, because I asked you about what a post-warp world would look like. Real quick, put that into a nutshell. What is post-warp world? Is it as self-explanatory as possible? Are we talking about warp speed, warp technology? What are we talking about?
Basically, we don't have to use rockets to get to space. We don't have to worry about trying to build a space elevator or all these other ideas that we had about how to get to space. And I don't know, the best way I can describe it is you go watch Star Trek First Contact, and because that's what the whole premise of that movie is about, is when we first create warp drive, and when you break that barrier, what happens. And this whole idea that, post-warp civilizations are